Did the Big Ten just literally let a Trojan horse into the conference? Can USC and Lincoln Riley win the Big Ten championship this year? We'll see. I think so. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. All right, is USC sneaky good, like good enough to win? We're going to talk about that. Plus, we have some Big Ten news and injury at Nebraska, financial news at Ohio State, lots of stuff to get to. And we'll have our power rankings. We're going to bring back our old Mascot power rankings. We've re-ranked them. I mean, the Oregon Duck has been tremendous this week. We get to all of that. Now, most of you know the Greek mythology story of the Trojan Horse, where a wooden horse was used by the Greeks to sneak their warriors into the city of Troy during the Trojan War. And their warriors snuck out of that horse in the night, opened up the gates, and let the rest of the military in to win the battle against an unsuspecting foe. Maybe you missed that. Maybe you slept through that part of your class back in high school. But that was the deal. That's where the phrase comes from. And maybe the Big Ten just did the same thing for real by inviting the USC Trojans to join the Big Ten. Do the Trojans have the ability to win the Big Ten championship? Now, I said at the beginning, yeah, they do, and they're going to be part of the mix. Now, you know, things break one way or the other. I still think Ohio State and Oregon are the top dogs in the conference this year, but the short answer is, when we look at all this, is that USC is a very talented team. They're in the conversation. But the more complicated answer is, well, it's more complicated, right? No doubt Lincoln Riley will bring some offensive firepower to the Big Ten. They're known for that. They were known for that in the Pac-12. But Lincoln Riley's teams, both at USC and when he coached at Oklahoma, seem to regard defense as an afterthought. They seem to regard defense as just something the team did when the offense wasn't on the field. Now, that typically is not a good formula for winning football games in the Big Ten or winning a Big Ten title. In fact, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State last year were the top three defenses, 1, 2, 3 in the country, not just the Big Ten, in the country. And there were some other good teams as well around the Big Ten, like Iowa and Rutgers. They just play good, sound defense every single week. Lincoln Riley-led teams, they just try to outscore their opponents, right? It's like the old-fashioned NFL run and shoot, just score, score, score. They usually score around 40, 42 points a game, and they usually give up around 32 points per game. Usually they win more times than not, usually. We'll come back to that in a moment. USC spent a lot of money to lure Riley from Oklahoma, and his first year was great. He won 11 games in the regular season, and quarterback Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy. But the defense blew a 14-point lead to Utah in the Pac-12 championship, and they got blown out and cost themselves a playoff spot. Then last year, another step backwards. Defense got worse. It did. Let's be honest. It got worse. Despite a 6-0 start, the Trojans finished 8-5 on the year. And that was with a Holiday Bowl win. Of course, the bright spot in that was that quarterback Miller Moss stepped in for Caleb Williams, who wasn't going to play because he was going to be the number one pick in the draft. And Moss's first and only college start, he threw 6 touchdown passes. Cool. Caleb Williams, who? We got Miller Moss. The quarterback of the future problem was solved. The chain of command at quarterback was solved at USC. And, you know, not so much just based on one game, which seems ridiculous, but it was the 6 weeks of practice leading up to the bowl game. And Lincoln Riley saw that he had a quarterback that could take charge and run things, practice day in and day out for a 6-week period. Told everybody else, if you're thinking of coming to USC, don't. I got my guy. One of those guys was reportedly Will Howard. He was going to come, but that was scrapped. He ended up at Ohio State. So there you have it. if Moss has the ability to sustain his Holiday Bowl pace, and look, that was an incredible pace, and let's say he does half of that, all right? Let's say he starts throwing 3 touchdowns a game instead of 6. Combined with Riley's offensive tutelage, there may be some success ahead for the Trojans. They certainly won't be boring, that's for sure, all right? Now, in addition to Caleb Williams' departure, USC's top 2 rushers and top 2 receivers, they're all in the NFL now. So there's a lot to replace over there. But USC got transfer Woody Parks. He came in from Mississippi State. He's a good runner, but he's a good pass catcher too. Caught 214 balls out of the backfield out there. USC is the number 1 wide receiver and the number 1 tight end for the entire 2023 recruiting class that are coming of age now. Zachariah Branch and Deuce Robinson. Branch already earned All-American honors as a returner and be featured more as a wide receiver in this offense this year. And Deuce Robinson, he's 6'6", great size. He switched from tight end to receiver, so he could be one of those big receivers. And, he's bringing back a little bit of offense last year. So it's an elite 1-2 punch for those 2 guys at wide receiver. And the line did suffer some offseason losses. Top lineman Jonah Monheim, he returns. He's flexible. He can be guard or center. And then, so the offense has got some pieces. And again, with Lincoln Riley, I have some confidence that they will probably be able to score some points and move the ball a little bit this year. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room at USC. Talk about their defense. That's the elephant in the room. Now, Riley fired his longtime defensive coordinator and good friend, Alex Grinch, came over from Oklahoma after that 52-point disaster to Washington. Riley then, at the end of the season, got UCLA's defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn, to come across town and coach for the Trojans. And Lynn did a great job turning the Bruins defense around. He took a UCLA team that was 92nd in the country in defensive scoring, got them down to like the 14th team in the country. So pretty good turnaround right there. The word on Grinch was he just had a complicated playbook. And, let's find out offense. I think you want to simplify things a little bit on defense. The athletes couldn't react. They had to think. It's not the best way to play defense. At least that's what I hear was the situation. Lynn has a much simpler playbook, simpler language. And now the issue becomes talent. Made a few upgrades in the portal. And while all 4 starters in the secondary are gone, by the way, that might be a good thing. I'm just going to lay that out there. Lynn brought a couple with him from UCLA, like Kamari Ramsey and John Humphrey. Ramsey was the highest rated transfer they had in. So they've got that going for them. So you put it all together and, it's still kind of new. They could rally going into year 3 now. Look at the 11 wins in year 1, 8 wins last year. 19 wins in 2 years is not bad. It's not bad. But there's expectation that, hey, we're trending downward. Let's trend back up at Southern Cal. That's what they expect. Let's take a quick look at their schedule for the season. Let's see if we can play the win-loss game and kind of see where they're going to be at. And again, they're going to have, how we do this? And sometimes the middle tier teams, we go, it's a 50-50 game. Like a Rutgers Northwestern could go either way, something like that. USC's got some 50-50 games, but at a higher level. They got a really tough schedule, and they're games they could win or lose either way. Of course, that starts right with the opener, that Sunday nighter against LSU in Las Vegas. Going to be rooting for USC to win that game. I don't know if they're going to win that one. That's going to be a tough one. That's a 50-50 game, right? It could go either way. Let's table that one, right? We're in trouble if we're tabling the first game. They got a game against Utah State. They should be able to win that. Then they got a bye week before traveling to Michigan. That will help them to have the bye week and to go to the big house and get ready for 2 weeks to get ready for that game. I don't think they're going to win it, though. I don't. I think that'll be a tough ask. Then they come home and take on Wisconsin. They could win that game. I don't think it'll be easy, but they could win that game. And then they're at Minnesota. I think they will win that one. It's not like they're playing cold Minnesota in late November. It's October. It should be beautiful. Then they come home and take on Penn State. I think that's going to be that's a 50-50 game. It's at home. But Penn State, I think Oregon and Ohio State are going to be battling for the Big Ten championship. And then there's going to be like 3 more teams that are going to fight maybe to be a third playoff team representing the Big Ten. I think, that's going to be Michigan. That's going to be Penn State. It's going to be USC. I think those are the teams right there at that next level. So, you know what? Penn State, it's at home. Penn State doesn't lose to anybody unless it's Ohio State or Michigan. Let's say they don't win that game, USC. They're at Maryland. They should win that game, but they got to travel all the way across the country. But we'll give them the W in that one. And then they come home to take on a Rutgers team, which is gonna fight them. It's gonna punch them in the mouth. But I think USC could win that game since it's at home. Then they're at Washington. We just featured Washington's team yesterday. We don't know what to expect out of them. It's a 50-50 game, but it's a winnable game. That's 6 wins right there. And then they got another bye week, and they finish out at home against Nebraska, which Nebraska is my hot pick of the year. I don't know. I think Nebraska could come into Troy and win that game. At UCLA, let's say they win that one, would have up to 7 wins, and then the Notre Dame game at the end of the season. I know you're looking at 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, or 8 wins with this schedule this year with the USC Trojans. Trojan fan, am I being fair? Am I not pie in the sky enough? You think there's more wins there, or you think we're about right? Certainly, I don't think worse than that. They're not going to have a losing record or anything like that. But would love to hear your opinion on that. So be sure to subscribe, by the way. If you're new to this podcast, we'll tell you how we think it. We'll keep it, tell it straight. Wins, losses, who's good, who's bad, who's doing what. If you're new, subscribe, and we're making our push to 10,000 subscribers before the start of the season. And you can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Don't forget to pick up some Trojans gear. We got a website. You can see if you're watching on video right at the bottom, talkbig10, 10.com. All of our podcasts go there chronologically. We also group them by school. This one will be filed away under the USC Trojans page, and you can get merchandise from your favorite team right there at your leisure. Talk Big 10, 10, talkbig10.com. So we're going to bounce around here. The Big 10, Ohio State, they're going to name the horseshoe. They're going to give it another name. We got some injury updates too with Nebraska. That's not good. So we got all of that coming up. And then our final segment, we're going to do our midweek power rankings. We're going to do the mascots, the new mascot, all 18 of them. And we've moved it around. We did this earlier in the spring. We're going to change our mind on a couple. So we got all that coming up. It's right here on Locked On Big Ten. Game time. You want to go to a game? You want to go to a Big Ten game? Anytime here during the football season, get the Game Time app, download it on your phone. It makes getting tickets to anything easy right there in your hands. They got great deals as well. By the way, the rest of summer, you want to catch a baseball game? Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. That means you get great deals. Prices on the Game Time app can actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. It's fantastic there. They've got all kinds of deals there. Last minute deals on anything, baseball or not. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, all that. If it needs a ticket, you can get it on Game Time. And then they have a view from the seat of the ticket you're about to buy right there in your hand before you hit click and buy it. It takes all the guesswork out of it. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe in our push to 10,000 on YouTube. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10, 10.com. And when you're done with us, check out a second listen and enjoy Locked On College Football. It's got their own podcast there. Spencer McLaughlin getting you ready for the big season on the football field, plus all the news, realignment, expansion, transfer portal, all of that stuff. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On College Football. All right. Ohio State, one of the greatest stadiums in all of college football and all the country, really. Could we be getting a new name for Ohio Stadium? New athletic director Ross Bjork said everything's on the table now. This is his approach as he's taken over the job. In this new world of college athletics, there are a couple of things that may force the issue with naming rights at the school. Yeah, you know, a lot of stuff's going on, a lot of changes, all that stuff. Well, first of all, earlier this season, the NCAA allowed for colleges and universities to sell on-field sponsorships for regular season games and jersey patches, and that could come next. Some business analysts estimate that big-time schools like Ohio State or Michigan could bring an extra $5 million of ad revenue every year if they do this. But also keep in mind that the NCAA has been hit with this $2.8 billion antitrust settlement that could cost Power Four schools around $22 million per year for revenue sharing. So schools need some extra cash and more ways to increase that revenue. These are some of the things they're suggesting. So at Ohio State, Bjork says he's committed to keeping every one of the Buckeyes' 36 varsity sports afloat. It's one of the biggest athletic departments in the entire country. He doesn't want to have to cut any sports, so he's considering everything to bring in more money and keep these things afloat. So don't be surprised if someday in the near future you see the Horseshoe Ohio Stadium with a sponsor title on the outside of the building. Speaking of the Buckeyes, you know, we spoke it was a couple of days ago. We're talking about the quarterback battle at Ohio State. Maybe it was late last week. And things are interesting there as Will Howard seems to be grabbing the job, separating himself from the field a little bit, but also turning heads as five-star freshman and Alabama transfer Julian Sayin. Very impressive to a lot of people. Now, remember, Sayin was set to join Alabama, actually did join them in time for bowl practice, getting ready for the Michigan game. And so he was on campus for a little bit and running the scout team. And then all of a sudden, Nick Saban retired after the Rose Bowl against Michigan. And so Sayin decided to open up his recruiting again. Now, remember, the Alabama assistant that recruited him was Bill O'Brien at the time. This is before last season. And then Saban retired. And by then, Bill O'Brien had already moved on, and he was technically the offensive coordinator at Ohio State for about 6 weeks. But those 6 weeks were very instrumental because that's when all this was going on. And Julian Sayin had to make a decision fast because classes were starting and he had to move and get ready for a semester somewhere. He knew Ryan Day, felt comfortable with him, knew Bill O'Brien, said, all right, Ohio State, there it is. They got a good quarterback tradition. I'm going to go there. I know those guys. Everything's cool. Because when Kalen DeBoer was announced the head coach at Alabama, Sayin really didn't have a relationship with him. So he bolted. So all that was going on, and he got in his classes and he started practicing, and everything's going really well. Also, keep in mind, at one time, Chip Kelly also tried to recruit Sayin and to go to UCLA. So again, even when Bill O'Brien left, after Sayin had decided to go there, and then Chip Kelly was coming in, he was cool with it. So that's great. So he said recently, yeah, man, I made the right decision. Everything's going great. Everything's fine. And then Chip Kelly talks about saying, he says he does a great job of just staying in the moment. Good things or bad things don't phase him one way or the other. You know, staying in the moment was probably a skill that probably helped him when his world was throwing a little bit of chaos last January. He had to make a quick decision. All right, I got some bad news for Nebraska. As you know, Nebraska is one of my hot picks for the year here. They have a 6'10" offensive lineman, a tackle, Teddy Projaska, and he suffered a season-ending ACL knee injury this week. It's the opposite knee that he hurt before, but it will be his fourth surgery. He's played 18 games over 3 years for the Huskers and with 11 starts, but he hasn't been able to string together a full season at any given time. It'd be nice to have a 6'10" tackle out there, but he's not going to be there. They also lost freshman Roger Gradney for the season as well during practice on Saturday. Saturday, I think, was that nighttime game they had out at Memorial Stadium, or the nighttime practice that they let fans come in NCs. So bad news for Nebraska. All right, we are going to lighten the mood a little bit. In the middle of the week, every week, if you're new here, we always do power rankings. And we're going to power rank our mascots. Now, we did this in the spring, but I mean, with all the greatness of the Oregon Duck, he's moving up. He's moving up the list fast. And I've rearranged a few things as well with all 18 teams. Well, I should say 16. 2 teams in the Big Ten don't even have mascots. I'll let you know who those are in case you don't know. It's all coming up right here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. All right, it is time for our power rankings. We're going to power rank the mascots in the Big Ten here. All 18 of them, or I mean, 16 of the 18 that have mascots, since we have 18 teams, and I'm going to move some stuff around. So I will tell you, I'm going to switch this around. I'm going to put it on full screen. If you're on audio only, we'll start with the bottom half first. That's what I'm trying to juggle around here. Oops, I missed that. There we go. All right. So at the bottom, as you will see, Michigan is 18. Indiana is 17. They don't have mascots. It's ridiculous. Once upon a time, Indiana had a bison, but that didn't really stick. So Michigan doesn't have one either. Penn State, the Nittany Lion, I'm ranking at 16. This costume or mascot has been around since 1904, and frankly, it looks like it. It looks horrible. It looks like it's been sitting in a closet for a couple decades, and they dragged it out. They need to look. It's a great school, great atmosphere. I think we need to upgrade the Nittany Lion a little bit. Am I alone in this? And then there's Illinois, who the Fighting Illini, they decided they wanted a little more politically correct mascot, so they've gone with a kingfisher. I mean, it's bright and colorful. It's blue, but it's only been around since 2020. It's not really caught on yet. At 14, I got the golden gopher, Goldie. It's okay. It could use a little upgrading too. And then there's Maryland at 13, Testudo, the turtle. He looks friendly. He looks like one of those friendly Ninja Turtles from the movies. He doesn't look too fearful, though. At number 12, number 12 and number 11. I'm glad these are together. We got the Nebraska mascot and the Purdue mascot. So Nebraska has Herbie Husker. He's just some giant with some giant hat, red hat, and overalls. And then Purdue Pete, he's just very noticeable with his ginormous head. But we got him there at number 11. All right, so that's 11 through 18. Now let's look at the rest. Number 10, I got the Northwestern Wildcat, Willie the Wildcat. Not bad. He's been around since 1933. Probably could use an update. At number 9, we got UCLA's Joe Bruin. It's very nice. They like it out there on the West Coast. Maybe they need to make it a little more, I don't know if you will make it a little scary. It looks very friendly. I guess you got to, sell some merchandise to kids, so you can make it friendly. Now, at number 8, Wisconsin, Bucky Badger. Bucky Badger is scary. Bucky Badger looks like he could come after you like in the woods and bite you and you get rabies. That's what that looks like. At number 7, Washington, Harry the Husky. The purple pops. I don't care what it is. It's always looking good. Washington's uniform, the mascot, school colors. Those always pop. At number 6, we got Iowa, Herky the Hawk. This looks fantastic. A giant hawk with a big black head and a yellow beak, matches the school colors, and he always wears a football uniform. I think he's a very underrated mascot. Herky, as in short for Hercules, right? At number 5, Ohio State's Brutus the Buckeye. I actually was going to put this higher, like at number 2. Like it's a very noticeable mascot. It's always around. They're winning. They're scoring touchdowns, all that stuff. But then I started doing some of these other ones, and I got to put these next 3 ahead of them. Rutgers, Sir Henry, the Scarlet Knight at number 4, and USC's Tommy Trojan riding on his white horse at number 3, and Michigan State Sparty there at number 2. I had to put all these guys ahead of Brutus because they all look like they could they would beat up Brutus in a fight. Brutus is slender and in shape, just with a giant Buckeye head. Meanwhile, you got like, Roman soldier types here with Sparty and Tommy Trojan and Sir Henry. If there were a battle of mascots, those three would definitely beat Brutus. So I had to bump Brutus down to 5. Still top 5. And at number 1, of course, the Oregon Duck. I have loved. By the way, he's very colorful, bright, very noticeable. It was a good mascot to begin with. As it comes here into the Big Ten, it starts the games. It comes out of the tunnel on a motorcycle, looking like just a bad dude out there. And I have enjoyed watching his travels throughout all the locations of the Big Ten, taking pictures and social media in front of all the football stadiums, and he's aggressive. Out of all the 4 new schools, like Oregon Duck, he's making himself home at the Big Ten at all these other places. Popping up at Matt Rule press conferences, pictures of him looking like he's trying to break into the stadiums at various schools across the Big Ten. I like it. I like it a lot. So he gets the number 1 spot. Our updated mascot power rankings for 2024 heading into the season. We do some sort of power ranking every Wednesday at the middle of every single week, in case you're new to the podcast. So I just want to share that with you. Yeah, if you're new, we always have a feature in our last segment. Mondays, we always do some sort of top 10 observation from the weekend. Tuesdays are Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we do power rankings. And once we get into the season, we're going to do actual power rankings like the football teams and how we would rank them. Thursdays, we always look ahead to the weekend schedule on the Big Ten Network. And then Fridays, we do our pigskin picks or some kind of pick or prediction on Friday's shows. So that's the third and final segment of the podcast each and every week. If you are new, thanks for finding us. Tell your friends about us. I know you know some Big Ten alum or friends, or maybe you're one of the new Pac-12 fan groups. Tell everybody, word of mouth, that we're out here. We took over this channel about a year ago with 1,200 subscribers. We're pushing to 10,000. So before you go, subscribe. It's free. There's no other information. And then you and I are in the Big Ten loop right away. All right. Many ways for you to interact with me at Twitter or X at TalkBig10 our website, talkbig10.com. And of course, comments on YouTube are always very popular. Once again, be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. And you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. I'll invite you to watch another episode, get caught up. We did the Washington Huskies yesterday. We're going to do the UCLA Bruins tomorrow. Looking ahead, what's coming up. And then when you're done with us and checking out our website, talkbig10.com, don't forget your second listen of the day. Enjoy Locked On College Football, getting you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion of the upcoming season and everything going on in college athletics between NIL and transfer portals and all that. Locked On College Football available on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I enjoyed the visit. I never take it for granted. Thank you very, very much. And I can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.